Governor James says many European industrialists are unaware of Alabama's resources, like geography, waterways, and transportation systems. He says they have an interest in the state's coal reserves and in proposals to expand the state docks facilities in Mobile to handle coal shipments. James says no firm decisions on industry locating in Alabama are immediate, but he anticipates some by the first of the year.
We met a number of companies that had made the decision to locate in the USA, and several had made the decision to locate in the southern part of the USA. So what we've done there is staked out our ground, and I think without exception everyone is going to come and send their people to investigate Alabama. We met yesterday with a firm that I think will put a pulp mill in Greene County. That was another one that I failed to mention, but I think that will be announced by the first of the year. It's about a $150 million investment.
James says ground will be broken soon near Huntsville by a German firm to manufacture magnetic tape. The governor says he believes the current 9-day industry-seeking trip could produce 3,000 to 4,000 new jobs for Alabama. James and his party travel to Copenhagen tomorrow before returning to Alabama late Sunday. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
Opposing coaches use terms like explosive, flashy, strong, and fast when describing James Brooks. The 5'9", 180-pound speed merchant invents moves that he may never use again. Incredibly strong for his size, Brooks runs over as many tacklers as he fakes out of position. Auburn's number 2 all-time rusher has had great success against Tennessee, the Tigers' opponent Saturday.
The SEC gave our first SEC game, and we know Tennessee got a good team, and we look forward to playing against Tennessee. I enjoy playing against Tennessee.
Brooks provides excitement wherever he touches the ball, whether it be in the backfield or on kick return. Last Saturday against Duke, Brooks broke the first kickoff return for a touchdown in his career.
Well, I've been trying that long run a long time, It's 3 years I've been trying. This year, about time I break one, and I felt good about that, I think they helped the offense, to take more advantage of the defense game.
A legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate, James Brooks hasn't carried the ball that much this year. How does he feel?
Well, everybody been playing like a 9-man front on us. It's hard to run against a 9-man front. Everybody been keen on me real tight. We just trying to loosen it up to give my chance I can run the ball. We done a lot of passing this year. We haven't done it in a long time. If we can do it there, I'm all for it.
It began with an explosive bolt of lightning which must have struck close by. Then, says Lucille, a ball of light, perhaps a foot across, floated slowly through her open front door, down her hall, then into her bedroom and out the window. What happened next?
Oh, that's when I went in the hall and I sat down. I said, thank you, God, for saving my home and myself.
As Lucille was giving thanks, the ball of light apparently was passing through a wooded area between her home and that of her friend Louise Turner.
And then I saw this ball, about like this, with an orange glow to it, and it came straight toward my kitchen door, and it seemed to come inside, and then it disappeared.
It made no noise, as they recall. It did no damage. And what it seems to have been is a rare and curious form of lightning known as ball lightning, though in this case, instead of lasting a few seconds, as most observers report, the luminous ball lasted several minutes.
And it looked light. Oh, I wanted to touch it, really. But I was afraid. I said, oh, Lord, no, they might kill me. I don't know what it was. I said, as old as I am, I've never seen or heard anything like it before.
Lucille and Louise were wishing on that startling day that someone else could have been standing in their shoes. And with ball lightning such a rare phenomenon, there are surely scientists who would have swapped places with them gladly. I'm Dan Atkinson with Weatherbeat.
Investigators are going over cases at the local Department of Pensions and Security looking for fraudulent claims. Attorney General Charles Graddick says his task force has found a tremendous backlog at the local DPS office. He says the office is shorthanded and isn't able to keep up with all the clerical work. Graddick says that's one reason so many people have been able to cheat or lie when they apply for assistance.
We've got some very, I think, dedicated people in departments of pensions and security, but they're so understaffed that they can only do so much to verify, check, and make sure the people who are applying are eligible for those benefits.
Workers at the welfare office here in Montgomery say the way the program is set up makes it easy for clients to take advantage of the system. A caseworker has no alternative but to take a client's word that he's telling the truth on his application.
You must have doubt, a reasonable doubt, to try and start to verify information that they have given you. You can't say that this person looks like they're lying. There has to be some good cause to look further into it. And again, you contact references with their permission.
It's hard to believe that a family can come in and say, I have 6 children and we've been out of work since January of 1980, and really believe that they have lived for those months on zero income. How do you pay the rent when you've got rent quoted as an expense?
Both Mrs. Thompson and Mrs. Pratt say they're glad the Attorney General has stepped in to try and stop the fraud. They say now at least there's an avenue for getting back some of the money that has been lost over the years. Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News. More than 29,000 people received food stamps in Montgomery County last month, valued at more than $1 million. The problem is that many of those people receiving the benefits are lying about their eligibility. Investigators have been working here at the local food stamp office for just over 4 weeks now, and already they've turned up 80 fraud cases. They expect to find at least 200 before the investigation is complete.
The primary misrepresentation that's made statistically is a misrepresentation as to employment. I'd say it's running 60 to 70% people who are lying about their income or employment.
Attorney General Charles Graddick says the task force has found people who were initially eligible for assistance, but whose status changed and never reported it. He says there are people who claimed a certain number of children and were receiving aid to dependent children, but didn't have any children at all.
Oh, they've got all kinds of schemes. They register in 2 or 3 states. They'll try to become eligible in several counties. They use false identifications and driver's licenses. They are using food stamps, selling them back sometimes to retailers for 50 cents on the dollar. The retailer in turn send it to the state and get $1 on the dollar. Or they use these food stamps just like they use money. They buying narcotics, dope with it, whiskey, buying stolen property with it. So what in fact is happening is that the taxpayers of this state and this country are financing illegal drug activities, illegal stolen goods activities.
Graddick says while the state has a responsibility to help people in need, those certain few ripping off the system make it impossible to provide the kind of assistance they need. Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News. Attorney General Charles Graddick says there's never been a way to police the welfare system until now. And Graddick says he's going to prosecute all the people found with fraudulent claims.
It's amazing. Once they're convicted of a felony and the judge sentences that person to 1 year and a day or more, up to 10 years, and puts that individual on probation and tells them, you go get a valid job, you no longer will receive welfare benefits, and you pay back X amount of your salary to the state of Alabama. And if you don't do that, we want you to clearly understand this. We're going to put you behind bars where you belong.
Graddick says with all the publicity the task force has received, some people who weren't even charged have turned themselves in.
They're not running anywhere. We've had people who were not charged come in and voluntarily say, we don't want to go to jail. We've been receiving illegally benefits, and we want to pay that back.
You even have people calling up, and for no reason or no apparent reason, they wish to withdraw from the food stamp program. It cuts down on some of the backlog of work that way, and many people just voluntarily start sending in money and say, I want to pay back.
I think the majority of the recipients are probably honest, but there is a great deal of abuse. And of course that's keeping the people who should be getting the benefits from being able to receive what they should be receiving.
The investigation here in Montgomery should be completed by the middle of November. Then the task force will move on to Jefferson County. Gina Gregory, WSFA TV News.
I guess, you know, we may think about those things from time to time, but that was kind of a horror story with them returning open kickoff, and then we scored, and then we never stopped them after that, and things just didn't happen right for us, and they played real well. And certainly we'd like to play good at home. We'd like to play good against Tennessee and win our first conference game. It's an important game for us, and it's a rival game, and that's important, and so we're looking forward to the game Saturday.
That'll handicap us some, but we should have more football players in Vanderbilt. We've known we had this game for 10 or 12 years, and their coach has only known it for 2 years, so we've had a lot more time to prepare for it than he had.
The violent crimes, rape, robbery, and assault showed the greatest decrease in Montgomery County last year. There were 49 reported rapes that year as compared to 75 2 years ago. Robbery was down 20% in that time period. In 1978, there were just over 300 robberies reported. In 1979, only 253. Statewide, violent crimes were down slightly. In 1978, 15,467 violent crimes were reported. In 1979, that figure dropped by 16. The property crimes, burglary, larceny, motor vehicle theft, and arson rose. The 1979 figures were up by 10% statewide, with larceny leading the list. In Montgomery, larceny was up 3%.
Well, I can't say why larceny is on the increase. Definitely, I think that it's a lot easier to steal than it is to work. I think that's probably the reason that larceny is on the increase. But I see it shows us in Montgomery, Alabama, with a 6% crime decrease compared to maybe a 9 to 15% increase across the state and across the United States. Hopefully the Montgomery Police Department has had a lot to do with it. I know that the hard work these young officers do on the street every day has something to do with it. We have a very effective crime prevention program in Montgomery.
However, the crime report for the first half of 1980 doesn't fare as well as compared to the same period last year. The report shows that crime in Alabama rose 15%, with burglary showing the greatest increase, that of 20%. Only assault experienced a decrease with a minus 1%. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News. This 80-year-old warehouse at Tallapoosa and Coosa Streets is the proposed site for the hotel. A refurbishing of the building could provide 130 rooms, only 1 block from the Civic Center.
Plans for the project aren't complete, but developers today received preliminary approval from the Montgomery Planning Commission. The developers say nothing is definite, but reports indicate the Sheraton hotel chain is interested in the project. A Sheraton representative in Mobile says only that the chain is looking at the proposal, but isn't ready to make any announcement. Now there are only about 500 rooms available in the downtown area, a shortage that plays a major part in whether large organizations will hold conventions here.
Anything will help. We're glad to see anybody come in. We've had rumors and rumors of people building hotel, and we're finally glad to see that someone is making some literal strides toward getting a new hotel down here. Well, it definitely will help.
Posey says if one hotel finds it profitable to locate downtown, others may follow. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Executive Director George Pfeiffer says the 1980-81 budget is tight and doesn't take into account possible proration of 7% next year and the probable loss of $100,000. He says the Department of Youth Services closes out the current fiscal year next Wednesday with a deficit of $135,000. Refusal by the board chairman to allow consideration of the possible sale or lease of some 100 acres of land adjacent to the department's Roebuck campus in Birmingham created some heated words. A motion by State Representative Bob Patton of Decatur and adopted by the board sets up a 5-member committee to seek bids on selling or leasing the land considered to be worth several millions of dollars. The committee, when it's named, will seek an independent appraisal of the land. Adoption of Patton's motion came despite Board Chairman Judge Jerry Vanderhoof's refusal to bring up the subject because it wasn't on the agenda. That caught the attention of Judge James Strickland of Mobile, who says he's tired of roadblocks over the past 4 to 5 years preventing consideration of the land question. Bob Bryan of Montgomery challenged the chair's ruling, and Strickland supported him. Some board members contend the value of the Roebuck land could eventually start to decrease if the board doesn't act soon. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
Oh, there you go. Hey, look at that. Nope. All right.
Sister Susan Radsky is Administrator, Chief Executive Officer, and Vice President of the Board of Directors at Montgomery's First Hospital. During her 6 years at St. Margaret's, she had a long list of accomplishments, which include formalizing an active physician and nurse recruitment program and completing a $4 million medical office building. But Sister Susan considers the hospital's $17 million expansion and renovation project to be her greatest accomplishment.
Especially the new addition and the renovation of the existing hospital, plus the office building. We've built a 6-story office building and a 4-story parking garage.
Sister Susan says she's leaving the hospital because she's also leaving the Daughters of Charity, who own and operate St. Margaret's, and says all former hospital administrators have been nuns in the religious order. A Prattville native will now take over Sister Susan's position. Sister Almeda Gosen will start work on October 6th and will oversee the completion of the hospital's current expansion and renovation project. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News.
Sleepy-eyed Bo Dowden of Natchitoches, Louisiana is no longer a bridesmaid. He is the 1980 Bass Masters Classic winner. After second and third place finishes in past classics, Dowden proved a weekend fisherman can win the World Series of Bass Fishing. He went right out in today's final day and caught the limit again, including the big bass of the day, a 6-pound 6-ouncer, to win the tournament in a rout. He led from start to finish. His totals were 15 fish, 54 pounds, 10 ounces, just 5 pounds short of the classic record, but there's a very important difference. The 59-pound classic record was on a 30-fish limit. Dowden's was a 15-fish limit. The marina owner won $40,000 in hard cash, but his promotional ventures during the next year will probably swell his take to $100,000. The sport's biggest name, Roland Martin of Broken Arrow, California, charged from 5th to 2nd on the final day with 5 fish weighing 17 pounds 10 ounces. Martin, who's won everything in bass fishing except the classic, netted $10,000. Montgomery's John Powell had a good tournament, finishing 8th with 31 pounds 1 ounce, worth $1,000. Every fish caught in the tournament was returned live to the waters of the St. Lawrence River on the Canadian border, where 4 years ago, no one even dreamed bass were swimming. This is Phil Snow reporting.
Director of Montgomery's Evening Extension School, Tommy Tucker, says 90% of the jobs in this area require some type of vocational training, especially in the field of business and office education. In that area, he says typing is usually the largest class, followed by accounting and data processing. Tucker says over the last couple of years, he's noticed an increase in the number of students taking these courses and says inflation is the #1 reason why.
Feel the need for another skill, one or two or three reasons. One, I think they're taking a second job, and also the wives of the working husband has also found a need to go to work, so they're in turn seeking a skill also.
Tucker says others are trying to improve their skills so that they can get a better job or salary in the same field. Other classes offered include those which are considered to be the more vocational type courses like auto mechanics, upholstery, welding, and woodwork. Tucker says he's also noticed an increase in the number of women taking these traditionally all-male classes. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News.
According to statistics, poisons kill or disable more children in America than the combined totals of all known diseases. Officials say medication and cleaning fluids swallowed by children are the #1 killers. Sherry Corkwood of the Montgomery JCS is chairman of Poison Awareness Week.
Our committee sat down to decide what needs in Montgomery were not being met at the present time. And in doing surveys and statistics, we realized that Montgomery was the only major city in Alabama that does not have a poison control center.
Anita Love, who is in charge of trauma control at St. Margaret's Emergency Room, sees a lot of accidental poisonings.
The poison clinic is mainly all about getting people to respond by calling the emergency room, your private physician, or a toll-free number which gives you access to a poison control clinic in the Alabama area where you can get important information on toxic substances or anything that a child might get poison on right away.
Ms. Love says if a parent suspects his or her child has ingested any type of poisoning, they should take it along to the emergency room so doctors will know what to use as an antidote. Tomorrow night, we'll learn what to do to help in the prevention of accidental poisonings. Dan Black, WSFA TV News.
Better there. We split the vote there, and we carried Huntsville, and we did very well in Tuscaloosa and most of the metropolitan cities that we lost. So we feel that we did a lot to come back in those areas, and I attribute it all to the.
There were a number of familiar faces at this afternoon's gathering. Quite a few politicians and Democratic supporters were unable to attend, but did send their best wishes, including Vice President Walter Mondale, who sent a telegram congratulating them on their grand opening. The only real campaign speech came from 2nd Congressional District candidate Cecil Wyatt, who had a few words to say about his opponent, Bill Dickinson.
He's had 16 years in Congress, and what do you get? That much older and deeper in debt. I can promise you that after my election, my telephone number will never be unlisted. His is, right here in Montgomery. You have to go through some rich and powerful man in each community to get to your congressman. After this election, you will not. You know, it's kind of strange, but Mr. Dixon's people drink like this. My people drink like that, out of a jug.
Ribbon-cutting ceremonies were conducted by Secretary of State Don Siegelman. Afterwards, the crowd went inside to collect all types of campaign literature and speak to some of the candidates. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News.
Today marks the beginning of Poison Awareness Week, sponsored by the Montgomery JCS and the County Pharmaceutical Association. The two organizations are working together in an effort to help reduce the number of accidental poisonings of children by making parents more aware of potential household poisons. Sherry Corcoran of the Montgomery JCS is chairman of Poison Awareness Week. She says there are a number of things parents can do to protect their children.
Well, what we're promoting is out of reach and out of sight. If you go and get medicines from the pharmacist, make sure that you get the child-proof tops, and please put the right way on there. Most parents, a lot of parents are using for their convenience the other side of the top, in which the child can open very easily. If you do not have locks on your medicine cabinet and on your counters, there are child-proof locks that you can install on these. If that's not a possibility, take any substance that is dangerous to the child, put it in a suitcase, lock it, and put it up on top of a counter where the child cannot get to it.
Mrs. Corcoran says if a child becomes poisoned, in some cases a trip to the hospital can be avoided by using the proper antidote.
The syrup of ipecac is an over-the-counter drug that you can get at any pharmacy. And during the week of the campaign, the participating pharmacists in the area will be giving away free bottles of the syrup of ipecac to parents of children of preschool age.
Ms. Corcoran says approximately 90% of all cases involving potential poisons can be managed by phone, either by calling the Poison Control Center in Birmingham, toll-free 1-800-292-6678, or by calling a private physician. In conjunction with Poison Awareness Week, a free public seminar is scheduled for 7:30 Tuesday at the Beard Building on Federal Drive here in Montgomery. Dan Black, WSFA TV News.
It was a good trip. Glad to be back in Alabama, but I think the groundwork has been laid to attract some capital, Great Britain, Germany here. When you look at the plants that we've lost to sister southern states over the last decade, it's absolutely imperative that the state of Alabama be presented in its best light, which is quite good. And I think that we will see a lot of jobs and better paying jobs are created in the state from European plants expanding into Alabama.
This is the State Beverage Control Board central warehouse. Stored here are hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of wines, 192 different brands altogether. Only available at your state store until recently. But beginning Wednesday, all of that will change with the advent of retail wine sales. The State Beverage Control Board is phasing itself out of the table wine sales business, but will continue to sell wines containing more than 14% alcohol content, which are prohibited on the retail market. Already about 500 grocery stores, convenience stores, and other retail outlets have applied for licenses to sell wine.
We anticipate that the state will gain approximately $2 to $3 million the first year by the private enterprise sale of table wine. Of course, the retailer, it gives us a new product to sell on which there's a markup, and we're very pleased about that. But as far as the consumer is concerned, which is the one that's going to make all this go or not go, it's going to add a lot of convenience to the shopper.
McDonald says retail wine sales will mean a wider selection, as well as the possibility of lower wine prices for consumers. Dan Black, WSFA TV News.
The commission voted for the fund, recognizing the need to refurbish and expand the courthouse and jail facilities, along with a court order to alleviate overcrowding in the Montgomery County Jail. The commission set aside $6 million, with the money to be used only for courthouse improvements. $4 million was taken from the general fund surplus and $2 million from the emergency fund surplus to start the fund. That raised concern from Commissioner Bill Joseph, who wanted to be sure that there is enough money to operate next year while allowing for the county employees 7% cost of living pay raise. County Administrator Henry Sedeth told the group they would have enough money for the upcoming October 1st fiscal year. In next year's budget, commissioners are anticipating $761,000 generated from the 4-cent gas tax. $700,000 of that revenue was earmarked for completion of the Pike Road Bridge project and repairing county roads. To keep the gas tax fund operating, commissioners authorized the transfer of $210,000 from the general fund to cover additional construction and equipment expenses. Kim Davis, WSFA TV News.
That ending the year with this kind of proration and with the economy in the posture it's in right now, it would be easy while I'm not doing it, but it would be a very easy thing to predict proration for next year as well. All of the ingredients for proration are present.
The 1979 state law created an argument among educators and legislators about whether the authority over junior colleges lies with the State Board of Education or with the Commission on Higher Education. Wednesday's hearing will not deal with the validity of that law, but will determine whether several junior colleges are violating it. George C. Wallace State Community College and Sneed State Junior College are accused of opening unauthorized branch campuses in Hampsville and Boaz. And Athens State College will be investigated on charges of initiating new programs without AIC approval. An Attorney General's opinion advises the actions are illegal and recommends a hearing before the governor decides whether the schools are in the wrong.
And should he make the ascertainment that an illegal state function is in the process, funding for that agency or some of the programs in that agency will cease until rectifications have been made.
McDonald says many members of the State Board of Education would also be responsible for allowing institutions to violate the law. He doesn't anticipate the hearing will take long because he says all they have to ascertain is whether the schools began new programs and whether they had AIC approval to do so. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Governor James didn't report any firm commitments by European industrialists to locate in Alabama, but he says he does anticipate some firm decisions soon.
I think that we will see a lot of jobs and better paying jobs are created in the state from European plants expanding into Alabama.
The first leg of the trip by the governor, the mayors of Mobile and Birmingham, and Alabama industrialist development officials was England, with stops in Birmingham and London.
Your Excellency.
Yes, sir.
How very nice to welcome you to Birmingham.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
How nice.
A tour of the National Exhibition Center, where Britain's annual sports and leisure exhibitions was in progress. And to the governor's delight, diversified product, which he had founded in Opelika, was part of the display.
That's marvelous.
Amazed. Thank you very much.
It's like being home.
It's like old home week. I had no idea they were having a sporting goods show in Birmingham.
Didn't you?
I really did.
London was on Tuesday's schedule, including a meeting with U.S. Ambassador Kingman Brewster.
I don't know whether you're buying or selling, but
A little of both.
A little of both. That's
right. The British insist on it. That's very good. That's very good.
Next, a reception at the American Club for Leading Industrialists and an opportunity for the governor to salute Britain's Queen Elizabeth and Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher.
Now, time for me to toast to Her Majesty the Queen.
The governor's first official act came during the unveiling of a plaque opening Richmond's Portomobile office to promote commerce in Alabama's port city.
Automobile, Alabama
Stops in Germany and Sweden were next, but first, an assessment of the first couple of days.
The pound here is very strong. Great Britain is almost independent of foreign oil. As a result of that, the British manufacturing community will be seeking plant locations in other places. To Alabama, this can mean jobs and better paying jobs. That's why we are here.
Of course, though this is a business trip, it's been a very delightful trip. And I find a strong economy here, stronger than I had anticipated. I think we've laid the groundwork for further explorations that may very well pay good dividends for Alabama in terms of new jobs being developed in our own state and investments from Britain and in America. I'm very pleased with it.
The trip to Sweden, considered primarily a trade mission, may result in the exchange of Alabama coal for Swedish iron ore. German industrialists are said to be looking at areas near Huntsville and in Greene County, as well as the state's port city. Governor James says his 9-day trip was long overdue, adding that now Europeans know more about Alabama. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
The Classic, as it is called, is a unique fishing event. It brings together 40 of the best fishermen on the globe. It offers over $100,000 in prize money. It outfits each of the contestants in identical $12,500 bass boats. But the most unique element in all this year was the setting. Alexandria Bay, New York, a quiet little fishing village on the St. Lawrence River, the connecting link between the Great Lakes and the North Atlantic. You soon become accustomed to large ocean-going tankers slipping by a few hundred yards away while you work your plastic worm through a grass bed in 18 feet of water, very clear, beautiful water. Another uniqueness, cold weather. On Wednesday morning, first day of the tournament, Ray Scott counted the boats in the first flight in 36-degree temperature. And when he turned us loose, the chill factor tumbled as we raced to our fishing hole at 50 miles an hour. It's called the Thousand Islands area. There are islands of every size all about you, more than 1,000 really, over 1,800 in all. The Bolt Castle sits on one of them, built by the man who owned the Waldorf Astoria, never completed. He was building it for his wife. Work was stopped when she died suddenly. His chef made a fancy salad dressing for Bolt's visitors to the area. It came to be known as Thousand Island dressing. Richard Stocks, a rising young bass expert out of Selma, Alabama, battled it hard. He must have fished around in between 100 of those islands, but with little to show for it. He paid the price of the newcomer. You have to be here a while.